What's up everyone, and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we force ourselves to keep moving forward and reviewing the Acolyte, continuing on with episode 5, Night. Let's jump right into the breakdown. Spoilers ahead. We start with Osha waking up from a cush coma, checking on her Game Boy before concerning herself with the lives of others. She trips just like her idiot twin sister, proving that it runs in the family. Or more accurately, no one can run in their family. She sees a Jedi all tuckered out from the fight before seeing that the Master is busy making Jedi Kebab. All the red shirt Jedi get cut down. The Master is even blocking blows with his helmet, which really turns off these two Jedi. Master Bay Tor takes a leg wound, but luckily it's nothing that will stop him from shaking hands with the milkman in the near future. Osha fails to stun Darth Chuckles, and Master Bay Tor, as he's done many times before, yells, "Osha, I'm coming!" and Osha runs to get out of the splash zone. Clear of danger, Osha rips off her droid's head just to use it as a flashlight. Darth Chuckles does his part in trying to make this show better by hurling his lightsaber at Osha, but Master Squid unfortunately saves her. Master Squid yells at Osha, "Get out of here, I'm gonna," and he unleashes a wicked fart, blasting her backward where Master Bay Tor says, "Take my strong hand," and she's like, "Why is your hand so sticky?" The overgrown gopher leads them away, but Osha wants to go back. Master Bay Tor is very reluctant, however, saying he really needs to get back to the ship for a thing. The Master says that Master Squid doesn't remember him, and Master Squid says, "Well, I've been through a lot." The Padawan delivers a flying head kick to May before they do some mud wrestling, but fully clothed unfortunately. Master Squid wants to see the Master's face, and the Master says, "I thought you liked masks," and his PTSD is in full swing now. Osha senses that the Padawan is in trouble and wants to go back for her, but Master Bay Tor says, "Come on, I need this." Master Squid and Darth Chuckles continue fighting, but out of nowhere, Darth Chuckles disappears. Osha asks what the Master is, and surprisingly, Master Bay Tor doesn't say, "I don't know, but definitely not a Sith." Master Bay Tor says that the Master can get into your head, and Osha says her mom could get into people's heads, and he says, "I could get into your mom's head." The very white Padawan finally uses enough police brutality to subdue May, but Chuckles pulls out his cell phone and puts a stop to it. The Padawan pulls another lightsaber out of her ass and duels the Master, until he disappears like the child support check is due. The Master confronts May for betraying him, telling her she's always been a weak pupil, and she says, "Sweet Lord, grant me freedom from these chains," and the Dark Lord answers her prayers. Before he can strike down May, Master Squid and the Padawan save her. Osha hears whispers and tells Master Bay Tor that they have to go back, and he accepts that he won't be able to scratch Yoda behind the ears anytime soon. Look that one up, by the way. The Padawan breaks the Master's helmet, and she gets the first exclusive face reveal, before he finishes embarrassingly fast in 3 pumps. Darth Chuckles is revealed to be the most obvious choice, and he, it turns out, is savagely disrespectful of pronouns, referring to the Padawan as it. He says, "Look over there," and tosses his cloak, which is sufficiently distracting for a Jedi Master apparently. He uses the opening to choke May, saying, "You really didn't know it was me?" And Master Soul says, "Everyone knew it was you." The Master threatens to make this show a lot better once again, and taunts Master Squid by saying his actions are not very Jedi of him. Master Squid asks who he is, and he says,
"You might call me Sith,"
before winking at the camera. He says he wants the freedom to use the Force without the Jedi cramping his style, before saying that he wants an Acolyte, giving us the epic show title drop. Master Bay Tor shows up 5 minutes late and with a sore right arm, but Darth Chuckles says, "Break yourself, fool," and puts an end to Master Bay Tor's grip of terror. Osha stuns May, something that she could have done 3 episodes ago and prevented all of this. Osha then stops Master Squid from killing the Master, giving him the chance to say, "I've bent over and spread myself for my darkness. What have you done for yours?" Maybe giving it a reach around? Osha has a very stupid idea about how to bring the Master back to the light side, and Darth Chuckles, the first Sith seen in 900 years, apparently finds 5 bugs more formidable than 6 Jedi Masters, and they carry him off like the flying monkeys from Wizard of Oz. Without another word, Osha says, "What's all this talk of getting penetrated by darkness about?" And Master Squid again promises to explain, but May stuns the Jedi, making sure we'll never know what the hell's going on. The two twins chit-chat and hug, but then Osha tries to arrest May, who responds by resisting arrest again before knocking Osha out. May doesn't have time to get her hair did, so she gives herself a cut in the dumbest way possible. Darth Chuckles lives, and the gopher picks up part of Osha's Game Boy. Osha, in quotations, returns to Master Squid, and he says, "Ugh, why do you smell like burnt hair?" They return to the ship, but the gopher can smell May's stank ass, which, to be fair, is a hobby of his. The Master comes across Osha, force heals her, and gives her his coat like a gentleman, and the episode comes to an end. Well, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this episode was a great watch or a hate watch. This episode was better than what they have been doing for the last few episodes in a few ways, but there is still just way too much rewriting of the lore for this to be anything but a hate watch. On the positive side of things, the fight scenes in this episode weren't half bad. The first scene in particular was actually pretty good. They even did some new things with the fight, like the medium rare Jedi Kebab. Most of this episode is fighting, in fact, and with decent fight scenes from beginning to end, it really helps you enjoy the episode more when the characters are talking less and doing less, because they're just going to screw things up. Still, I would have expected the fight scenes to be just as bad as everything else in this show, but they weren't. I also liked the Master's little inclusion of cortosis that we've seen in Star Wars Legends that can short out lightsabers. It is an underutilized part of the universe, so I imagine some people think it's clunky or dumb, but it is a thing, and it's nice to finally see it used. Of course, it begs the question, why is this the first time we're seeing it used, and why Jedi aren't just dripping in cortosis from head to toe, so some explanation is required. Everything else is pretty much on par with how it's been for the rest of the season though. I think the Padawan holding her own where 6 or 7 Jedi Knights and Masters couldn't was pretty dumb. When we finally did get to some dialogue between the sisters, their conversation was as clunky as their wrestling. For most fans though, little of that matters while the show continues to absolutely steamroll the established canon. The Acolyte cannot stop breaking canon, and they're just rubbing it in our faces at this point, with things like throwing Ki Adi Mundi into episode 4 and having the Master straight up call himself a Sith in this episode. Speaking of which, I'm very excited to see what the new cope will be this week when the last 14 people enjoying this show try and now explain how the Jedi haven't seen a Sith in a millennium. The dark side user called himself a Sith. He basically spelled it out directly to a Jedi Master. S as in Sith. I as in I am a Sith. T as in the Sith have not been extinct for a millennium. H as in holy shit, I'm a Sith. How can I make it any clearer? So Master Soul has to die before he reaches the front of the ship they boarded at the end, before he can jump on the radio and be like, "Hey there, 5-9er, we got a Sith over here on the Parlemian Hyperroute. Be advised, over." Otherwise, there won't be any leg left to stand on for the Acolyte apologists. And that wasn't the end of it. At the end of the episode, this self-proclaimed dark side user seemingly uses force healing on Osha. Force healing is not something possible through the dark side, just like with Force ghosts. Kylo Ren had to be redeemed and become Ben Solo once again before he could use force healing. The Force lashed out against Plagueis and Palpatine trying to create life. George Lucas's whole vision was that the dark side is incapable of these acts because the dark side is inherently selfish. It can only take, not give. People who know what they're talking about with Star Wars are going to be mad about this one. I fully suspect that a few people will latch on to the Master using this ability and argue he's not a Sith, ignoring all his other actions and, you know, his own words. Well, he could have been lying. Yeah, like a Sith would. Just as a side note, it's always a good sign of a shill when someone says that Star Wars fans are too serious about the idea of canon. They're either not real fans who don't know the history of Star Wars as a franchise, or they're well poisoners who willfully ignore the fact that Disney is the one who made the parameters of the current canon so stringent. And then Disney themselves turn around and treat it like shit. So ignore anyone who makes this argument as the bad faith actors they are. You know, for someone who wanted to surrender, May sure is fighting back a lot. Against the Padawan, against Master Soul, against Osha. Her character motivation isn't wavering or hard to decipher, it's just nonsense at this point. There was clearly no thought put into her overall arc before putting pen to paper. Something else that bugged me about this episode was the annoying hand-holding this show does at every turn. The question of who the Master is was answered with the easiest, most obvious answer possible. The Master basically winked at the camera when he said he was a Sith, and they show us May switching places with Osha, rather than merely alluding to it. They're hand-holding us through everything like we're children. They took the idea that Star Wars is for kids way too literal, and made a show where even toddlers would feel beat over the head with how they lay the story out for us in such an obvious manner. There's clearly something Master Squid is still hiding from us, so I expect another flashback episode coming soon, showing us the version of past events from May's point of view. Also, the show is set to finally show us some of that twin deception now that May has switched places with Osha. It comes 3 episodes too late for it to be of any interest to the dwindling audience, of course, but we'll see if the show makes anything intriguing out of the situation. I'm pressing X to doubt. Oh, and of course May has a face tattoo, but I guess Master Soul is an idiot and forgot about that. And as we always do, we must ask if this episode was worth $22.5 million. With the fight scenes and effects, I think they were far closer to justifying that number than they have been, but they're still nowhere near making the show look worth the price tag. In the same vein, so much of this episode and the last episode could have been cut down. This episode cut to Master Soul and the Sith for 20 seconds of fighting and conversation before cutting away to Osha saying they need to turn back like 4 times. These 2 episodes absolutely could have been condensed into one much better 30-minute episode. The channel will miss Jedi Master Bay Tor though, as his death robs us of some easy 5-finger jokes. We're in uncharted territory now, with early reviewers only having seen the first 4 episodes ahead of time, so stay tuned for any more juicy turds this show is going to drop on us. Did you think the fact that this show hid its true self for 30 minutes behind decent action made this episode better? Or do you think good action in service to a crappy story is meaningless? What's your favorite example of this show breaking canon so far? Let us know in the comments below. Also remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay up to date on the Acolyte. Thank you for watching Star Wars for Babies with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.